Fortunately, some are born with spiritual immune systems that sooner or later give rejection to the illusory worldview grafted upon them from birth through social conditioning. They begin sensing that something is amiss and start looking for answers. Inner knowledge and anomalous outer experiences show them a side of reality others are oblivious to, and so begins their journey of awakening. Each step of the journey is made by following the heart instead of following the crowd, and by choosing knowledge over the veils of ignorance, and thus begins their journey of illuminating the darkness.
Welcome back to Illuminated Darkness. I thought maybe we'd change it up a little bit. As always, I don't own any of the information or music contained herein, and no copyright infringement is intended. Today's episode is just some random facts, supernatural, science, history, the unexplained, religion, things I've found over the years on the internet. Some of this stuff really blew my mind. It's not really in any particular order. In the 1960s and 70s, astronomers hypothesized that there might be more mass in the universe than what is visible. Later, this invisible mass became known as dark matter, that is thought to make up about 23% of the universe, while only 4% of the universe is composed of regular mass, which includes planets, humans, and stars. Scientists still don't know what dark matter is and how warm or how cold it is. Stands to reason with the laws of opposites. Astronomers found the evidence that there's a large planet hiding out in the distant fringes of the solar system. It's called Planet 9, but it still remains a hypothetical body. We covered this in our very first episode with Nibiru. Is it there? Is it not there? Maybe we'll cover this at a later time, as I've found a lot more information on this subject. Aliens that are known as the gray aliens are sometimes referred to as the Zeta Reticulans, Roswell aliens, and most commonly just the Greys. They're more commonly involved in various alien encounters and abduction claims. Greys were first reported in the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. In 1965, newspaper reports of two alleged abductees, Betty and Barney Hill, brought the Greys to international attention. Some ufology sources describe the gray aliens as artificially created beings used by other races as servants or even slaves to execute tasks such as abductions and others. This subject has really taken off in recent years, and I hope to cover more of it in future episodes. Scientists have discovered an object billions of kilometers beyond Pluto, which has been named 201d TG387 and nicknamed the Goblin. It could have a mass about 10 times that of Earth, and they believe it could be evidence for the existence of Planet X. So maybe there are two extra planets lurking out there on the edge of our solar system. Only time and improvements in technology will tell. There exists a mystery about the North-South poles that still needs to be answered. Over the past 20 million years, the magnetic poles have flip-flopped every several 100,000 years. That's correct. And the last major pole reversal occurred 780,000 years ago, which means if you had a compass in your hand about 800,000 years ago, it would tell you that north was in Antarctica. Though scientists have concluded that the Earth's churning molten iron core powers these polar acrobatics, it's not entirely clear what triggers the actual The Mari Man in the southern Australian desert is one of the biggest geoglyphs in the world. It appears to depict an indigenous Australian man hunting with a boomerang or a stick, and it is so big it can be seen from space. To this day, its origin remains a mystery. Jennifer Carpenter, the actress who played the title role in the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose, reports that her radio would turn itself on in the middle of the night several times while filming the movie. It would also just play one section of a Pearl Jam song, Alive, that recites the phrase, "I'm still alive," over and over again without reasonable explanation. Stories tell that similar events occurred on the sets of other paranormal-based films such as The Exorcist and Poltergeist. People living in Leiden, St. Matthews, Hurstbourne, Graymoor, Devondale, Woodland Park, and surrounding neighborhoods in the U.S. have been discussing mysterious recurring booms for months. Louder than fireworks, a transformer explosion, or even a train. The booms have sparked several active conversations among the netizens. No one seems to know the source of whatever they are hearing, but they agree it's loud and sometimes loud enough to shake a house. Physicists see hints of X-17, an elusive particle that could be a new force of nature. The particle X-17 could help explain dark matter, the mysterious substance scientists believe accounts for over 80% of the mass in the universe. It may also be the carrier or fifth force beyond the four accounted for in the standard mode of physics: gravity, electromagnetism, weak nuclear force, and the strong nuclear force. The Fermi paradox is an apparent contradiction between the lack of evidence for extraterrestrial civilizations elsewhere in the Milky Way galaxy and the various high estimates for their probability. There are billions of stars in the Milky Way similar to the Sun. With high probability, some of these stars have Earth-like planets, and if the Earth is typical, some may have already developed intelligent life. Some of these civilizations may have developed interstellar travel, a step Earth is investigating now. Even at the slow pace of currently envisioned interstellar travel, the Milky Way galaxy could be completely traversed in a few million years. And since many of the stars similar to the Sun are billions of years older, this would seem to provide plenty of time. According to this line of reasoning, the Earth should have already been visited by an extraterrestrial civilization, or at least their probes. In around 2000, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Almost more baffling than the illness itself will be the fact that it will suddenly vanish as quickly as it arrived, then attack 10 years later, then disappear completely. This is what self-described psychic Sylvia Browne wrote in her 2008 book, End of Days. Polybus is an urban legend about a mysterious arcade game from the 1980s. The game is described as proving popular to the point of addiction, with lines forming around the machines often resulting in fighting over who will play next. Players supposedly suffered a series of unpleasant side effects, including amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations. Rumor has it that Men in Black used to visit the game who collected unknown date and the names of the high scores from the machines, allegedly testing responses to the game's psychoactive effects. Approximately 1 month after its release, the game disappeared without a trace. There is a star about 50 light years from Earth in the constellation Centaurus that is comprised of pure crystallized carbon, which means it's a diamond that weighs 10 billion trillion carats. A 5,500-year-old Sumerian star map of ancient Nineveh reveals observations of a Kofel impact and proves extraordinary proof of sophisticated Sumerian astronomy. The HERC2 gene mutation found in people with blue eyes is presumed to have only happened once, which means that all blue-eyed humans share a common ancestor from which the mutation originated. The solar storm of 1859 was so powerful that some telegraph operators in Boston and Portland could communicate for 2 hours without batteries, using only the current from the aurora. This was the Carrington event, which occurred on September 1st and September 2nd of 1859. If a solar storm of this magnitude were to happen today, it would cause widespread blackouts, electrical disruptions, and damage to the electrical grid. On the 26th of December, 1900, a small ship was making its way to the uninhabited Elanmore Island near Scotland. The island only had 3 lighthouse keepers. When the boat reached the island, the crew found all 3 lighthouse keepers had vanished. The logs found to reference a brutal storm that lasted a day, even though a neighboring island had a view of the lighthouse, reported calm weather. In 1855, mysterious cloven footprints appeared in newly fallen snow over a 40-mile stretch in Devon, England. They continued on top of walls and roofs, traveling over obstacles in seeming impossible ways. Townspeople were unable to come to a conclusion and nicknamed them the Devil's Footprints. In Santa Fe, New Mexico, a nameless stranger came out of nowhere and built a mysterious staircase in the Loretto Chapel out of foreign wood and primitive tools. The finished staircase seemed to defy physics. It lacked the newel or central pole usually used to support and stabilize a spiral staircase. It is thought by the nuns of that church that the carpenter was St. Joseph. In 1977, when Jerry Airhem worked under the SETI project at the Ohio Wesleyan University's Perkins Observatory, he discovered a radio frequency coming from deep space. He was able to get a 72-second signal from the constellation Sagittarius and was never able to get it again. To this day, no one is sure about the origin of the signal. It's known as the wow signal, derived from the wow Jerry wrote in the margin of a printout. A mysterious sickness known as National Hotel Disease affected as many as 400 people, and nearly 36 died who stayed at the National Hotel in Washington, D.C. in 1857. Could this possibly be the Legionnaire's disease? The lowest note in the observed universe is caused by the rumbling of a black hole in the Perseus galaxy 250 million light years away from Earth. It is 57 octaves below middle C. Having been in band and know what middle C sounds like, I can't even begin to fathom how low that note actually goes. Some say the book of Ezekiel proves that UFOs have been around a lot longer than we may have thought. The prophet Ezekiel is noted for recounting his observations of a great cloud with fire enfolding itself, a wheel in the middle of a wheel that descended and fired lightning bolts into the earth. The prophet called them flying chariots, operated by angels, built of wheels inside wheels. As quoted from the book, I looked and saw a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud with fire flashing back and forth, and a brilliant light all around it. In the center of the fire was a glow like amber, and within it was the form of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had human form. The citation supports the ancient astronaut theory. A papyrus containing the notes of Pharaoh Thutmose III detailed UFO sightings around 1480 BC. A circle of fire was seen in the sky, and the scribes reported their sightings to the pharaoh. Days following, more UFOs showed up. Thutmose III decided to burn incense and have his scribes mark the day as important. This kind of gels and goes along with what we saw in the book of Ezekiel. The human eye can only see between 430 and 770 terahertz. Our ears can only detect sound between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. These ranges make up a fraction of the total sound and light frequency spectrum. This means there's a lot going on around us that we cannot see or hear. According to ancient astronaut theory, an advanced race of human-like extraterrestrials called the Anunnaki live on a mysterious planet known as Nibiru, and they are the missing link in Homo sapiens evolution. Is this true? Are the Anunnaki influences on humankind really present even today? The Roman Catholic Church removed the books of Enoch from the Bible, which states all will be revealed in this present world. It also mentioned a civilization in the past that misused the keys of higher knowledge, presumably Atlantis. Why were these writings removed from the Bible? And why did the Bible neglect to mention previous civilizations? Did you know that in the year 2000, there was a video game called Deus Ex released for the PS2? The storyline was about a government agent exposing the Illuminati and their deliberate release of a virus to create a global pandemic in order to control society in ways they never could prior to the virus outbreak. Mass surveillance ensued, civil rights were suspended, FEMA camps were used to detain infected who were in fact political dissidents. A new world government was then created to unite against the global emergency. Pretty weird, isn't it? Are interdimensional beings aliens that are from other dimensions that coexist alongside our own? In 1953, a worldwide agreement was made based on the idea by the Rockefeller Center to change the frequency of music. They changed it from its natural harmonic resonance of 432 hertz to the current consciousness-suppressing 440 hertz. Jimi Hendrix, along with Bob Marley, Prince, and John Lennon, all tuned their music to a specific frequency of 432 hertz. It's known as the beat of the earth. It has substantial healing benefits and ancient Egyptian and Greek instruments were all discovered to be tuned to 432 Hz. However, since 1953, all music has been tuned to 440 Hz. This frequency has no scientific relationship with the universe and actually causes the brain to become agitated. The Nazis in World War II used this frequency against their enemies to make them feel and think a certain way. In 1969, musician Jim Sullivan recorded an album entitled UFO. The album featured songs that contained unusual lyrics, some of these being of Jim leaving his family and being abducted by aliens. 6 years later, Jim vanished without a trace. His car was found on the side of an isolated desert road. One of the most famous incidents of teleportation occurred in 1593 AD, when a strangely dressed soldier appeared among the sentries guarding the Plaza Mayor in Mexico City. Gil Perez showed up in Mexico more than 9,000 nautical miles from Manila, Philippines. It is a case from the official records of Mexico, which has never been solved. Al-Naslar, a 4,000-year-old rock formation in Saudi Arabia, looks to be split in half with laser-like precision. No one knows for certain how it occurred. Some argue that ancient civilizations were more advanced than history books portray. The Hexham heads were a small pair of stone heads about 6 centimeters high, found in 1971 in the English town of Hexham. The heads became associated with alleged paranormal phenomena, and their exact origin is unknown. The Pyramid of Giza's shaft was pointed at Orion at one time, and seems to be a topic of debate when the Great Pyramid was actually built and why. Also, the Sirius star and Alpha Centauri rising on the spring equinox was the beginning of the calendar year for the Egyptians. Orion is at the center of our Milky Way galaxy. The center of objects seem to have certain spiritual properties, even in physics, math, and geometry. Monuments spread across planet Earth have an incredible, precise alignment with the 3 stars on Orion's belt: Al-Nikek, Al-Nayim, and Mintaka. The Bin Bin Pyramid has puzzled scientists for years, and they are unable to solve its mystery. The pyramid is made of black stone, but it's not ordinary stone, because all of its components are not found on Earth. Black transtone is only found in space meteorites, and here's the other puzzle that appears, because it's very hard transtone. So it's difficult to mold and dig this material, but it's not difficult to break this stone. So how was it cut with so much accuracy in angles and deviations? How was it polished with such unique precision? As were these very delicate inscriptions on the sides of the pyramid. Scientists found it impossible for any tool, old or new, to carve the inscriptions except with laser cutting technology. Moreover, due to its unique composition, the black meteorite stone has a positive electromagnetic energy transferring in its surroundings that makes everyone who approach feel psychologically comfortable and affects the human energy. In 1993, Egyptologists sent a small rover through one of the air shafts of the Great Pyramid. The rover came in contact with a stone door with 2 copper handles attached. To this day, the door has not been opened, and no one knows where it leads. For over 40 years, a small section of people, about 20%, all around the world have complained about hearing a mysterious sound which has widely been called the hum. The source of this noise remains unknown, and it's still unexplained by science. This doesn't need any introduction. It is a linen cloth bearing the image of a man who apparently died of crucifixion. Scientists failed to explain how the image has been imprinted. After many scientific experiments and research, no one has been able to replicate this. Catholics claim it to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. It is currently held in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy. The Great Temple at Abu Simbel is an ancient Egyptian temple constructed during Ramses II's reign. There is a statue of Ramses inside the temple, and during its construction, he commanded that the temple must be built in such a way that the sun shone onto the face of his statue only on the date of his birth and the date of his coronation each year. Even with the Bronze Age technology, The architects accomplished this feat successfully. In 1986, UFOs allegedly followed Japan Airlines Flight 1628 for hundreds of miles into the airspace over Alaska and got so close that the plane's safety lights lit up, the cockpit, and the crew members could feel the heat from the thrusters of their engines. The miracle of the sun is arguably the most famous supernatural mass vision known to history. Yet the witnesses never stated it was the sun flying through the air. Instead, they insisted on seeing a second luminous oval object that shined like a pearl. History tells us that humans' pre-primitive achievements were not technologically advanced, but the megaliths and artifacts and thought processes at best can be determined. That appears strongly out of sync with what was achieved by our ancient ancestors. There is an ancient construction that indicates pre-10,000 society with an interesting and out-of-sync mindset just before the Sumerian societies appeared, from which we have records and evidence, and have the fact that 90% of human history is lost today. The Orion correlation theory is a hypothesis in alternative Egyptology that claims that the Orion constellation aligns with the pyramids every 2,737 years, and that this correlation was intended as such by the builders of the buildings. The stars of Orion were associated with the Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. Depending on which version of the theory, additional pyramids can be included to complete the picture of the Orion constellation, and the Nile River can be included to match with the Milky Way. The dark stone Palermo is one of 7 surviving fragments of a stele known as the Royal Annuals of the Old Kingdom of Ancient Egypt. Besides various historical details, the stele describes how the Egyptian kingdom was once ruled by a number of powerful kings, some kinds of strange beings, proving the ancient astronaut theories absolutely right. There are theories out there stating that the pyramids of Egypt were massive batteries or even electric generators. The orientation of the Great Pyramid is within 3/4 of an inch of true north. A modern magnetic compass is usually less accurate. Modern humans first appeared about 200,000 years ago, but record keeping didn't begin until about 5,500 years ago. That means 90% of human history is lost to time. No one knows exactly why obelisks were built in ancient Egypt, or even how. Granite is really hard, a 6.5 on the Mohs scale, diamond being a 10. And to shape it, you need something even harder. The metals available at the time were either too soft, gold, copper, or bronze, or too difficult to use for tools. Iron's melting point is 1538 degrees centigrade. The Egyptians would not have iron smelting until 600 BC. When the pyramids were built, there were still mammoths roaming the earth 4,000 years ago. The center of the 4 sides of the pyramid are indented with an extraordinary degree of precision, forming the only 8-sided pyramid. This effect is not visible from the ground or a distance, but only from the sky, and then under proper lighting conditions. This phenomenon is only detectable from the sky and dawn and sunset on the spring and autumn equinoxes, when the sun casts shadows on the pyramid. The pyramids of Giza are considered to be ancient energy machines. There were huge structures that could use properties of the earth to create a large amount of energy. It was believed that this energy was used by other cultures, such as the Maya. There is an ancient monument in Ireland called Newgrange, and every winter solstice its chamber is illuminated for 17 minutes by a beam of light, which reveals the mysterious carvings within. The Richat structure, also called the Eye of Africa or Eye of the Sahara, is so large that astronauts use it as a geographical landmark. It wasn't even discovered until humans started traveling into space, because its size makes it difficult to detect at ground level. Scientists still aren't entirely sure how it was formed. Not believing in the existence of aliens is like taking a spoonful of water from the ocean and saying there are no sharks in the ocean because there are none in your spoon. According to Greek mythology, the Sphinx sat outside Thebes and asked this riddle of all travelers who passed by. If the traveler failed to solve the riddle, the Sphinx would kill them. If the travelers solved the riddle, the Sphinx would destroy herself. The riddle was, what goes on 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet at noon, and 3 feet in the evening? The evidence of an atomic blast in ancient times comes not only from the Hindu verses, but also from ample extensions of fused glass fragments scattered throughout many deserts of the world. Silicone crystals, curiously cast, resemble remarkably the same fragments found after nuclear explosions at the White Sands atomic testing site. There was a monument in Georgia that has 5 sets of instructions in 8 languages on how to rebuild society after an apocalyptic event, while also functioning as a compass, calendar, and a clock. When a person leaves this world, their brain stays active for about 7 minutes, replaying their most intense past memories like a dream sequence. Human genes show that we all share a common male ancestor who is called Y chromosomal Adam. He lived approximately 304,000 years ago. Tamerlane was a famous Turo-Mongol conqueror in the 14th century. His tomb was excavated in 1941 by Soviet scientists, and what they found inside was eerie to say the least. A message inside the tomb read, "When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble. Whomsoever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." 2 days after the excavation, Adolf Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. Astronomers have found a fast radio burst coming from deep space that repeats in a lapping cycle every 157 days, and they cannot identify the source. The Ark of the Covenant, also known as the Ark of Testimony, and a few verses across various translations as the Ark of God, was a gold-covered wooden chest with a cover described in the book of Exodus as containing the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. According to various texts of the Hebrew Bible, it also contained Aaron's rod and a pot of manna. The Ark of the Covenant was lost after the Babylonian invasion of Jerusalem. While many believe the Anubis Shrine, Shrine 261, of Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb, found in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, could be the Ark of the Covenant. The human genome is 3.3 gigabytes in size, whereas an HIV genome is only 9.7 kilobytes, but it's lethal to humans and still unbeaten. The Great Pyramid of Giza is regarded by many as one of the best examples of ancient energy machines. True obelisks, as conceived by the ancient Egyptians, are monolithic, or made from a single piece of stone. The obelisk at the center of the Palace de la Concorde, for example, is monolithic. It is 3,300 years old and once marked the entrance to the Temple of Thebes in Egypt. According to legend, the Stone of Destiny was used as a pillow by Jacob in biblical times and was carried out of Jerusalem by refugees fleeing from persecution in the city. Many believe an enigmatic stone of unknown origin, known as the Lilifale, located in Ireland, could be the Stone of Destiny. The Lilifale, meaning Stone of Destiny or Speaking Stone to account for its oracle legends, is a stone at the inauguration mound on the hill of Tara in County Meath, Ireland, which served as the coronation stone for the High Kings of Ireland. It is also known as the coronation stone of Tara. According to legend, all of the kings of Ireland were crowned on the stone up to Murtagh Mac sorry, I don't speak Celtic either, circa AD 500. The stone is currently standing on the hill of Tara and is identified with the historical Lilifale. The pyramids of Giza are considered to be ancient energy machines. They were huge structures that could use the properties of the earth to create large amounts of energy. No ancient text, drawing, or hieroglyphic mentions the construction of the first pyramid, nor are there written records explaining how the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. This absence of history is one of the greatest mysteries related to the ancient Egyptian pyramids, but there are texts from the ancient Greek library that claim the pyramids were built with huge advanced machineries of unknown origins. Is it true? There are some children who have superhuman intelligence, knowledge of other worlds. They have access to such information that there is no way they could know about, and there have strange, mysterious powers such as psychic abilities and telekinesis. They are called star children by the ancient astronaut theorists. The Code of Hammurabi, 1745 BC, has 282 laws inscribed on stone. It includes the concept of eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, more than 500 years before the Torah. There are countless ancient monuments on Earth that were built in correlation with the stars. The constellation Orion is perhaps the best example. While excavating a library in Neve in 1849, British archaeologist Sir Austin Henry Layard discovered ancient Babylon cuneiform tablets that date back to the 7th century. They allegedly detail how humanity was created by spiritual creatures known as the Anunnaki. The Cherokee, or Cherokee, are Aboriginal people located in the states of Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. The alien legend of the Cherokee mentions the Nuhai beings, strange humanoid creatures with abilities such as teleportation and invisibility at will. Legend says they fought alongside the Cherokee during battles against local and European invaders. The sky god of Babylon was called Anu. The Hopi word for ant is also Anu. The Hopi root word was Naki, which means friends. Therefore, the Hopi Anunnaki, or friends of ants, may have been the same Sumerian Anunnaki, the beings who once came to Earth from heaven. Is it coincidence or evidence? It is possible to suggest that the ant people and the Anunnaki were similar beings who visited Earth. There is a mysterious loud radio signal known as the space roar that has yet to be explained. The ancients used sound to heal. The hypogeum of House of Flini is a Neolithic subterranean structure dating back to the Saflini phase, 3300 to 3000 BC, in Maltese prehistory, located in Palo Malta. There is a room in that temple called the Oracle Chamber, designed to vibrate sound at 111 hertz, which scientists now knows kills cancer using the power of the 11th harmonic. According to UFO theorists, the Black Knight satellite is an alien satellite which has orbited Earth for approximately 13,000 years. However, the mythical object is most likely a confliction of several disconnected stories. In 1998, NASA photos believed by some to show the Black Knight is thought by experts to be a thermal blanket lost during an EV mission. Black Knight is a jumble of completely unrelated stories, reports of unusual observations, authors promoting fringe ideas, and classified spy satellites and people over-interpreting photos. 6 to 10 billion light years away, there is a void in space called the Great Void. It is about 1 billion light years across. It was discovered in 1981 by Robert Kirshner and his colleagues, who were shocked to find this completely empty spheroid of both normal matter and dark matter in space. It emits no detectable radiation or light of any kind. Astronauts on the Apollo 11 command module heard weird music from above the far side of the moon in 1969, according to NASA tapes from the mission. Transcripts of the tapes were released in 2008 showing the astronauts on board talking about outer space music that can be heard inside the spacecraft. The sound stops after about an hour, and the astronauts discuss whether they should tell NASA or not. Astronomers have discovered a bizarre rogue planet named SIMP J01365663 plus 0933437 wandering the Milky Way. The free-range planet, which is nearly 13 times the mass of Jupiter and does not orbit a star, also displays stunningly bright auroras that are generated by a magnetic field 4 million times stronger than Earth. The pillars of the Temple Hal-Bidu were not built for design, but actually resembled the 3D model of sound. Is there secret information on it? We're unable to decode it with modern technology. A group of Canadian researchers has recently detected mysterious radio signals coming from a galaxy 5 million light years away that repeats regularly at an interval of 16.35 days. No one knows for sure what's causing it. The sun is so loud that if space were filled with air, its sound would be 125 decibels on Earth at 92 million miles away. A group of experts deciphered an ancient Assyrian cuneiform inscriptions that describe a 2,700-year-old solar storm detected by Assyrian astronomers at the time. 3 big solar storms are described on old Assyrian cuneiform tablets, according to scientists. The ancient tablets speak about strange crimson lights in the sky. After confirming the data, researchers discovered the solar storms that most likely happened between 679 and 655 BC. The world's oldest known astronomical site, Nabita Playa, was built in Africa and is 2,000 years older than Stonehenge. Located in the Sahara Desert, the 7,000-year-old stone circle was used to track the solstice and the arrival of the annual monsoon season. According to scientists, the human brain is a biological computer with the consciousness of human is a program ran by the quantum computer inside the brain. It continues to exist after humans die. As experts explain it, after people die, their soul comes back to the universe and does not die. 46 BC was 445 days long and is the longest year in human history. Nicknamed the Year of Confusion, this year had 2 extra leap months inserted by Julius Caesar. This was in order to make his newly formed Julian calendar match up with the seasonal year. In Carlo Crivella's 1486, the Annunciation with Saint Emidus, the Virgin Mary is shown kneeling inside a room in the town of Ascoli Piceno, Italy. A very thin, laser-like beam of glowing light intersects the painting, shining down and touching Mary on the head. The light originates from a vortex of swirling clouds that appear similar to a UFO hovering in the air. A fresco painting shows Christ crucified with a large crowd gathered around him, but in the upper left and right corners are what appear to be flying crafts of some sort of advanced technology that humans clearly would not have had 2,000 years ago. The ships are dome-like with 3 trails emerging from the bottom of each that looks like some kind of thruster. Conspiracy theorist and alternative historian Graham Hancock has perused most of his life work propagating the theory that long before the civilizations of Babylonia, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, a highly advanced race lived on our planet. Is this true? Is there any evidence to back this incredible idea? Words from the Flying Saucer magazine's November-December 1958 issue express that the ancient Anunnaki were indeed on Earth long ago. We are already among you, yet apart from, watching and occasionally guiding you whenever the opportunity arose. According to ancient astronaut theorists, in ancient times, more technologically evolved aliens came to Earth to mine gold and left a lasting impression on human civilization. Derek Pitts, the planetarium director for the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, offered explanation as to how gold is an essential element for both space exploration and astronomy. Are ancient alien theorists correct? Have we already been visited? A group of scientists have studied over 100,000 petroglyphs illustrating the squatting man. They were mapped by a GPS system which determined the direction they were facing. It became clear that they were facing a point in the sky above the southern hemisphere. For years, Egyptologists and archaeologists have thought the Great Sphinx of Giza to be about 4,500 years old, dating back to around 2,500 BC. But the number is just that, a belief, a theory, not a fact. As Robert Bauval says, there was no inscriptions, not a single one, either carved on a wall or on a stela or written in the throngs of papyri that associate the Sphinx with this time period. So when was it built? According to 2 Ukrainian scientists, the Sphinx is more than 800,000 years old, and there is true geological evidence to support their claim. In 2015, an ancient reproduction of the Egyptian god Osiris's mythical tomb was discovered in Thebes. The massive tomb was built between 760 and 525 BC and contains all the elements described by the legend, including a statue of Osiris and a staircase that leads to the netherworld. Ancient Babylonians did math in base 60 instead of base 10. That's why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle. The Rosetta Stone, which allowed us to translate Egyptian hieroglyphics, is just a tax document and written in 3 languages. There is no single marking or hieroglyphic anywhere in the entire pyramid, not even on the outside. This is radically different than almost every other structure in Egypt, and yet this is their crowning achievement. A building without writing seems more like it was built for functionality and not display. Ancient Egyptians have superior math skills. One such feat of genius is found at the inner sanctum, where the main temple in Abu Simbel. Here, every year, twice a year, the sun shines on the faces of Ramses II and the gods Amun and Ra. Interestingly, it does not shine on the god Pith, who is seated next to the other 3. Pith, as god of the underworld, must always remain in darkness. King Tut had a space dagger. X-ray analysis of Tutankhamun's dagger blade revealed not only that it was made of an iron meteorite, but that the material actually came from the Kangra meteorite, which fell to Egypt thousands of years ago. In ancient Egypt, iron was known as Ba-Impet, meaning metal from heaven, since humans hadn't discovered the process of smelting iron ore, and the only source of iron was through fallen meteors. Looking back at the movement of the Earth's crust, large parts of Antarctica were ice-free some 12,000 years ago, and civilization could have lived there, which could have gone extinct with the last ice age that froze the entire continent. This could have been Atlantis, founded by people who were half god, half human, which were mentioned by Plato in 360 BC. In 1978, pilot Valentech and his plane disappeared in Australia. His last communication was, "Melbourne, that strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again." 2 seconds of open mic. It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft. The Codex Gigas, which literally means great book in English, is the largest extensive illuminated medieval manuscript in the world. At a length of 56 inches, it was created using more than 160 animal skins and requiring 2 people to even lift it. In the ancient kingdom of Golconda, King Ibram Wali designed and built a fortress city so acoustically perfect that a hand clap at the fortress gate could be heard at the top of the citadel itself, located at the summit of a 300-foot hill. The heartstrings sometimes break after a deep emotional trauma, causing the heart to lose form and as a result be unable to pump blood efficiently. You could literally die from a broken heart. It's called broken heart syndrome. In 1835, young Joshua Newlove fell down a hole and inadvertently discovered Margate's Shell Grotto. 70 feet of underground tunnels led to a chamber decorated with arcade symbols made entirely from 4.6 million seashells. The origins of this grotto is still a mystery. The location of the tomb of Alexander the Great has been lost to time. Alexander was entombed in Alexandria. The tomb was subsequently visited by many pilgrims throughout history, including Caesar. The tomb was visited up until the 1500s, when its location was suddenly forgotten. There is a temple in India which has 8 vaults, and all were closed for more than 500 years. Between 2011 and 2016, the government of India had been able to open 7 of them and found treasure worth $20 billion. But they were unable to open the last door of Vault B. It is believed that the secret chamber holds such a huge amount of treasure that it can run the country for more than 10 years. The vault has no lock or such kind known locking combination. However, it can be opened by a secret Vedic spell, but no one knows it. 1,000 years before Pythagoras figured out his famous mathematical theorem, a Babylonian not only discovered it first, but mapped a series of trigonometry tables with a clay tablet and a reed pen that are more accurate than anything they teach you in math class. The 3,700-year-old tablet is believed to have been used to plan out the construction of monumental structures and is an example of the high degree of sophistication of Babylonian mathematics. Each one of these can be considered fact or fiction, true or false. Some of the historical and scientific facts can be backed up by a simple internet search. Others may simply be myth, urban legend, or wishful thinking. However, out in the world, there are those of us that believe a lot of these things may or may not have happened, and we believe them to be a possibility. So many of our ancient monolithic monuments are a testament to human intelligence and human creativity. We live in a world where amazing things have happened and things that are completely unexplainable have happened. I can't wait to see what happens in the next 1,000 years. But it's up to you what you believe. Till we meet again, keep your eyes and your mind open, and as always, try to stay out of the darkness.